Welcome to Muse and Metrics. This is your host, Philippa Burgess. This is Season 5, Episode 15, and today's topic is web sustainability.
My name is Ines Akrap. I'm a senior web performance engineer. I'm a Women Techmaker, Techmakers ambassador. I'm a Croatian living in Munich.
Advantage of being a Women Techmaker member, and that anybody can sign up to be a Women Techmaker member with your email and get access to so many of these wonderful free opportunities. Some of them you can just register, like the I Am Remarkable, and other ones you can apply, like the Women Developers Academy. And you don't have to be an ambassador. That's another level. And so, welcome and congratulations into the ambassador program. But you really took full advantage of being a member.
Yeah,
Can you
exactly.
talk about some of that experience?
Absolutely. So, being a member, I discovered actually Women Tech Makers a few years back, and it's a it's amazing program. And for me, now becoming ambassador is just one of the ways to give back to the community that I learned so much from. No, as you already mentioned, so I've done I'm Remarkable workshop. I've done a Women Developers Academy. So I'm happy to talk more about all of these programs. And I've also participated as well as held some sessions, some talks at Women Techmakers International Women's Day. So most of these things have been very cool. There's also, of course, there's so many workshops in general. There is so many talks that Women Tech Makers ambassadors are holding around the world and the different conferences and everything. And yeah, it's just such an inspiring group that we can all learn so much from. So super excited to be part of this amazing community. So I'm Remarkable is actually one of the hardest workshops I've ever done because it kind of makes you praise yourself. You know, it kind of makes you look deep inside of yourself and find things you're remarkable at. And to me, that was extremely hard since I kind of have this tendency to surround myself with very remarkable people. So then, comparing, of course, it's not the best thing to compare yourself, but of course, that's also one of the ways to grow. To look up to these people. But it was very hard. It was very hard to kind of sit there and like think about, okay, like what makes me remarkable. So it's a very nice exercise, and I would definitely recommend it to everyone because it definitely gives you a confidence boost.
So it does give you a confidence boost, but you have to dig it out. You have to
Oh
find
yeah.
it in yourself to speak and own these aspects of yourself.
No, I've been through computer science degree. No, I finished math high school, then did the computer science degree. So you can imagine studying computer science as a woman as well. It was a very let's just go with interesting ratio. No, like you were a lot of times you were not the only girl in a room, but we were just a few, and it kind of made this status quo that guys were coding and the girls were presenting and delivering documentations and stuff. And I'm happy that this came back in my career. I went back to coding. So I was like, wait, why did I accept this at any point in time? I do want to do technology. I do want to do coding. I'm quite good at it. But then again, did realize that this kind of transmitting my knowledge, explaining, and well, of course, like appearing in public is something that I was, well, let's just go better than most of my peers, who were like, let's say, as good engineers, but they just did not have this skill set, or in the end of the day, maybe the confidence enough to step inside of this roles. So this was kind of as well how I found this passion for like in a way performing, no, in a way just like kind of standing there sharing this with the community.
Now, going into Women Developers Academy, and it is something that I've been accepted to. I'm going to be starting shortly. I'm very much looking forward to it. What can you tell me about that experience? Because that's obviously there's a lot more breadth to that.
Yeah, that was one of that program I actually ran into very randomly. So I was a part of the first edition they had in Europe, and I actually ran into the event application link on some very well random website, meaning, I was just searching for a person, just kind of when you find something on the internet and you just like dig yourself deep into. And all of a sudden, I just like saw this, and the deadline was 5 hours from that moment. And I started reading, and I was like, whoa, like, I love this. Like, oh, quick, do this. And I was actually very, very excited to get into and to do this academy. And yeah, it's basically the idea of it is to empower women developers to, of course, to actually get on stage, to find their inner voice, not only on stage, actually, sorry, to get out there, to find their inner voice, if that's for example blogging or YouTubing or public speaking, maybe all of it, but just kind of to um, you're already kind of an expert in your field, so share it with the community. A lot of us wants to do it, we're just at some point you're too shy, or you're not kind of, you don't know how, you're not sure about something, people think maybe only about one way. When we're talking about sharing with community, a lot of people thinks about, for example, conferences, but it's, you can always blog if you don't like conferences, and things like this. So it's very interesting, it helped me a lot. So I did it, I think around 3 years ago, actually, now. So it was actually before my maternity leave. My child is about to be 2 years old. So I'm just going to go. I was pregnant at the time. So it was around 3 years back. So I kind of did that at that point in time. And it really helped me, first and foremost, actually get some more talks, because I was not applying very well. No, I was just applying, for example, I did not get some call for papers because I was just going too specific. So things like this, how to adapt, how to write your biography, how to, some tips and tricks about public speaking and all that. So it was very interesting, it was very useful program. And of course you also got mentored, you got matched with some mentors, you got some one-on-one mentoring, you can ask whatever you want. And I'm actually super proud to be a mentor on the next one, and I'm very, very excited to see the new generation. So I'm a type of person who believes a bit that you can create environment for yourself as well. So there is so many times, I've been uh, in my work, I started kind of feeling, or trapped in something, or just, let's say, unhappy with something I'm doing. And that's the moment I kind of decided to pivot in a way, to kind of see what I can do proactively in order to add more, of the thing I want to do in a way. No, so for example, now I'm back from my maternity leave. So I was one year I was on maternity leave. I'm almost back for a year, and to be honest, it's been very overwhelming, the whole thing. It's very hard to navigate, and of course you can always not do all the stuff. So for example, I've done very many engagements such as this, I've done conferences and everything, and this is something I very much enjoy, but this is the thing I don't have to do. So this is something that you kind of a lot of time have to prioritize with yourself, and in this case, of course, with your family, with your partner. I'm very happy to have a supportive partner who is as well 50-50 parent, who is a parent to our child as much as I am. So, the dad is not taking care of the child right now. He's being a dad, no, as we say that. So, uh, basically, doing this whole thing uh, has definitely been very challenging in a perspective of prioritization, in a perspective of finding time for everything, including myself, including, this whole thing of not burning out, not doing too much and all that, because in the end of the day, you're not worth anything to anyone if you're burnt out and you're not good. So when it comes to this, I think uh, moderation, as well as kind of, you can have everything not all at once as well. I think that was also one very interesting thing I've heard once, and I kind of also tend to think this at some point. I was like, okay, now you have to decide which one you prioritize at this point in time, and like, let's say, which month, which week, which year, and all that. So um, I would say again, like it's mostly up to you. So definitely there is different employees, there's different environments, there's different communities that can support you, that can help you out. And uh, again, for me this whole thing, for example, with GD as well, I decided not to apply that moment because from what I've talked to different colleagues who are also GDs, they told me, look, the moment you enter in the program, it skyrockets. It's just you enter in such an amazing community. There is so much to do, so much to kind of grab onto. So many places to be, that she was like, I don't think you can really do this with an infant. So this was also a very, very valuable piece of advice, because then I can prepare myself. I knew what to prepare myself for, and I took this year off to focus on my child, on like, well, me becoming a mom for the first time, which was also, no, this is a huge transition in any woman's life. So as much as you're becoming anything else in your life, as much as you're getting your degree, of course, starting a new job, this is a huge, huge leap in your life. It completely changes. And this was something that I'm very happy I took slowly, and I kind of took my year to kind of settle into it. But then the moment I was back, I was like, I'm back. Like, where do I go? And then again, I guess like this is just a bit of this balance, that it's sometimes it's very hard to achieve, but it's very important, and it's a trial and error, I would say, as well, for each and every single one of us. So I guess there is no one universal advice I could give you, but just again, to be flexible, to be open, to pivot a lot, to just kind of adapt to anything that kind of comes your way, and well, to choose your community wisely, which looks that you're doing well. No.
So I think community is such an important aspect of what we do. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, which are groups, but they haven't coalesced as a community yet. And a lot of them are people who are at the beginning of their programming journey. And I feel like they haven't really clued into a lot of that yet. They're just like, where do I start? And I think they're really wanting to start coding, which I think is admirable and a worthy place to start. And if you're going to work in tech, it's important to know. But I think that the community building also kind of runs parallel with building your technical skills and delivering your technical skills.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for me as well, I moved, well, not that much, but I was born and raised in Croatia, in Zagreb, and for my last year of studies, I did a year abroad in Portugal. Then after that, I came back to finish my master degree, and I did an internship in Barcelona, where I stayed for the next around 4 years, and then from there I moved to Munich. So it was kind of as well, when you're starting over in a way, these few things is like you just start fresh. You start kind of with zero. I was lucky not to have to change the company in the last transition, so that was already, I already knew most of the people from the office I was going to anyway, from different events. But it was that was already a huge deal. Like, you're changing the city, but you're not changing the project or anything. So this was like a huge, let's say, well, it was an easy factor in a way. But starting fresh, I remember, like, so actually the first, when I just moved to Munich, I found one of the colleagues who shares an interest in web performance. We were at every single meetup. Well, for community, for networking, and for pizza, of course. But it was kind of, it was that moment where you just kind of come and you are trying to figure out, like, how do I fit in here? Like, where do I fit? Who do I want to spend some time with? And then a bit by bit, I guess, as well, I was building these few, well, not even like building this much, but like kind of coming into these different communities, because at the end of the day, you have, every single one of us has more, we have more aspects to our lives. We have, like I say, our career life, we have some hobbies, we have all of these, and each one, for example, even like those, for example, tandem, the language, I love to learn languages. So basically this language exchange and things like this. So there are so many things that you can connect with people on some levels. And this was, for me, this was amazing. This was something that kind of very fast makes you feel welcome somewhere, and it kind of gives you this homey feeling and a sense of security and all that. So I guess I had this few times in my life. For example, I think one of the actually biggest one was also in Barcelona when I joined a CrossFit. It was such a, you become a part of that community very fast. And it's actually amazing because after, I think, if I would miss the training, like straight away, people will just like WhatsApp me, like, "Oh, are you okay?" If everything is like, and just makes you this, you don't have to think about it, like, "Oh, I have to go exercise." Like, "Oh no, I'm going to see my people. We're going to have a beer afterwards." So it's just kind of giving this community to every single aspect of your life. At least to me, as a again, I'm quite a I'm type of people who kind of loves to I'm type of person who loves to be with the people. So for me, this kind of gives me a bit of a more energy to kind of do these things together with other like-minded.
I also want to transition to what you do for work. You are a front end web developer. So, for those who don't know, can you just give a little bit more on what is front end software development?
Sure. So basically, the story goes that I was actually very young. I don't know, 10, 12 years old when I decided I wanted to be an engineer. So, and this comes from something I always say it's very important, which is role models. So my godmother is actually an engineer, and this was just the way, it was always, I quite looked up to her, and we also very much look alike. My mom is very confused about this thing because she's where she gave birth to me. So, and I look like her, a female best friend. So that's, but yeah, I always looked up to her a lot as well. And to me, this was a very interesting field. I was always, let's say, good with math and all that. And to me, I knew quite early that I would like to go to math high school and then afterwards to study electrical engineering and computer science. And well, I kind of did it, all of that. And after I got my master's degree, I just kind of end up in front end because at this point in time, I was actually searching for different jobs in telecommunications sector mostly. So my degree is telecommunication and information technology. So I was looking for jobs in telecommunications sector. I ended up finding online marketing. So it just kind of went everywhere, and it kind of landed in the end on front end development. So actually, the first piece of JavaScript I ever wrote was the application for this job. I luckily got the job. It was very, very entry level job. I'm actually still at that job, a bit higher up, but I'm still at that company where I started 8 years back. Now it's going to be 8 years. And it was kind of, so for years, I was quite drawn to front end because it's instant and it's very much visual, and also gives a bit of this creativity as well, that you can see things, that you can move things around. And it's not, I always, when I compare it, at least this is my point of view. So when I compare it to backend stuff, you write like huge piece of code at the backend and you get like, a number as a result, which is, of course, this whole thing is a piece of art, absolutely. But then for me, like having, writing one line of code and having something move and dance around and change colors is just something that I always preferred to do. So actually, with my background in telecommunications and all this parts about network, the front end also is about delivering, how we connect this part through the network, how these, all the kilobytes, well, megabytes these days, go from the server where they, of course, these numbers get calculated into the actual browser and visualization part. And this is actually how I started, bit by bit, putting more focus into web performance. This is actually what I do now on a full-time job, is actually a web performance engineer. So I kind of optimize website for speed and usability and all that. And during one of the conferences that I was attending a few years back, the speaker was talking actually about some of these optimizations, and he compared amounts of unused code to carbon emissions. And that was kind of the moment my mind was quite blown, because I was like, oh my God, like I've never thought about this aspect of my job, that I'm actually doing something good in that way. So this was the kind of, let's say, also a bit of this pivot moment where I was like, oh, let me learn more about this. So the last, I would say, maybe 2 3 years, I spent a lot of time looking into, of course, the whole sustainability aspect of the digital, no, like generally the web, how web performs and all that, and how to make in general no websites more energy efficient, and by that as well more sustainable.
And talk about more about that when you say the sustainability aspect. That's
Mhm.
interesting to me. And what does what does sustainable web mean? And just expand on that.
Yeah, of course. So we basically, it's a very, very broad topic. No, when you see a sustainability, there is actually two different words that get thrown a lot when we talk about it, which is sustainable and then let's say green. And basically, sustainable, when we talk sustainability, we talk about, of course, carbon emissions, but we also talk about social and economical aspects of the topic. No, so for example, if you're in web development, something that would go into sustainable web, but does not go that much, let's say, into carbon emissions per se, which is, let's say, green. When we talk about let's make the web greener, is for example accessibility. No, designing for accessibility, designing for inclusion, and all that. So there's many different aspects to the topic, but um, the easiest way to understand like this, it's basically whatever we do online uses electricity. And unfortunately, at this point in time, most of the electricity worldwide is still produced by burning fossil fuels. And this is in the end how the carbon footprint of the internet comes to be. So this is kind of reducing the amount of energy our website has to, well, use and consume in order to display, to process, and all that is, let's say, in its core, how to make at this point in time web more sustainable.
And what should people be thinking about? Is it the people like yourself obviously are leading this conversation, you're part of this conversation, but what should people know in terms of the actions they take? A small way, I'm hanging out with my mom, who regularly reminds me, turn out the lights. And she said, children brighten every home, by the electric bill. But what should we be thinking about related to we just as tech makers and as people who are in the tech industry, or as just general consumers and people who we use the phone, we use the computer, we're on the web?
Okay, yeah. So, of course, as you already mentioned, there is definitely two approaches to this topic, which is from a perspective of a creator and from perspective of a consumer. No, so let's go. Basically, I'm both. No, and this is something that helped me a lot, from both sides to kind of know, of course, how to create something, how do you consume it, and all that. So uh, I would say, in its nutshell, the main issue is that we are just producing too much. Again, when we talk of sustainability in general, not only web, because web is actually at this point in time, digital is responsible for about 4% of greenhouse gases. So this does not sound that much, but um, in its core, again, like there's definitely bigger fish to fry when we think about these things. But to me, it came from a perspective of I do this every single day. So why not kind of elevate it? I do all of these small things. I try to recycle. We stopped using plastic straws, so why wouldn't we try to do some of these small wins when it comes to actually to the web? So this is also one of the questions I get a lot, which is like, why would we even do this? Like this doesn't sound like it's going to help. We're not going to save the planet by doing X, Y, and Z, which I'm going to go in a minute. But I was like, look, in the end of the day, then why don't you just use the plastic straw? It's just these small things that in the end of the day maybe just helps us feel better. But I guess that the thing here is compounding, no? Because it's what if one person does it may seem nothing, but if many, many people do it, then it does scale. So when it comes to the emissions of the internet itself, no, a lot of times, I think this is actually one of the fun parts as well, is that many people there have this feeling that internet is out there, that it's a cloud, no, and it's the whole cloud branding did not help with this thing. People having a feeling that internet is very much physical. It's all of these devices that we have to plug in, that have to use electricity. And again, unfortunately, this electricity still comes from fossil fuels. So when we think about it, we have a server which also gets us to these kind of bad guys that are the data centers. We're talking about all of these big data centers being built, being cooled down, being powered. And one of the things I also like always to ask as a question is like, but why do we even need that many data centers? And I guess that the response here is actually very simple, and this is just the sheer amount of data. So from both perspective, as of course as a creator of for example of a website, as well as a consumer, it's where we very much have to think about what we need and what we don't need, and of course try to delete all of these things that are just, let's say, sitting there and collecting dust, or in this case just kind of using this energy, processing power and all that, and are basically not being used. So again, to go just a bit deeper, so I don't go I can talk about this topic for a few hours probably. So I'm going to try not to go too deep, but I guess from perspective of a website itself, it's just assets. It's first and foremost all these things that we put on top of the website. So many times as a front end developer, I would do my best to do the website very performant, to kind of optimize all of these little things, and then someone puts a very very heavy image on there. So it's a very vertical topic that when it comes to web development, I encourage every single role inside of the process to think about this topic. So it's not only designer's fault or developer's fault, or like a business decision. So it's across the whole vertical of the development. So and then it kind of, when all of these pieces kind of fit together, then it's something that we can actually optimize and make it let's say in this case a bit more sustainable. And then I guess from a side of as well of user, of consumer, that's also, I would say, how much you use it as well, when you use it.
When you talk about it kind of collecting dust in the cloud, is that sort of when you talk about cumulative effects? Because I want to do more editing on my computer, and my computer just said no, you're done. So I'm looking for where can I move some files to the cloud. Although the way that I'm using Dropbox, it sort of seems to take memory on both Dropbox and my computer. It's not actually disappearing it off my computer. So I'm just playing around, but I'm realizing as I go through this, because I'm just doing this massive clean out, how many duplicate files I have, how many old files I have, how many things that I can just clean. And so is that the same as me making an effort to recycle, to actually help if I'm keeping my own house clean as far as my data files? I mean, I'm just one person, but
Yeah.
I'm finding that I'm still using half a terabyte.
Absolutely. So this is something that it's a huge deal, no? Because I also like to use this analogy of a closet, and it would be very very good if we keep the internet, if we see the internet as something with a limited space. And the problem is that building, in order to increase the space of the internet, we need more data centers. And that's what's happening. The more data, the more photos of our cats we have, or of our children, whoever, who has what, like, or like, actually the one I love to use is fireworks, because I had so many videos of fireworks throughout my life. And then you remember like those days when we did not have the cloud. So you actually had to manually erase your phone to get space for more photos. And this was actually the moment that I kind of like to refer myself inside to. It was like, you remember all of those fireworks, Ines? Did you ever use them? How many times did you delete them? So this is something when I kind of check in with myself. So a lot of these times, and this is something that kind of throughout my life taught me to kind of think before before you record, or even after, straight away, even when I record my child, I was like, I record something, I was like, okay, nothing special happened, delete. Not the first word, no, delete. So I try to be a bit like mindful with these things. So of course there is things, every time I talk about the topic, I don't want ever to sound no. like, no, don't do this, stop doing this. It's, of course, you, after you've done your editing, you have something that's a great product, that's a, that came from hours of your work, from your creativity, and this is definitely something to hold on to. But I guess all the, let's say, the version 1 and version 1.2 and final.1 and final.5, all of those versions in between are something to, that Marie Kondo would say, thank it, like, take it and just throw it away.
So you make a really, yeah. So what happens is, for example, I do a recording and then I download it. That's a raw file. Then I upload it into my editor. I edit it, and then I save it as a final. Now, I'm also sometimes will think, oh, wait, I want to fix that one thing or something. And I'll go back and now I have version 2. And then I have, especially this actually, less in audio files, because usually when I deliver the final, that's pretty much. But if I'm doing a video, I'll watch it again and then suddenly be like, oh, wait, I want to fix that. Or if, specifically if I'm doing maps or anything that's a photo, and I'm really kind of lining things up, going wrong on that. So I will go ahead and fix it to the point that I have 5, 6, 7, 10 versions of something. And I don't delete all those previous versions. And so now they just all are just continuing to, not only you're helping me see junk up my computer, but junk up all of the internet and and adding to this need to have bigger data centers. I just recently ran across a picture of a Google data center. These things are massive, huge.
Last
So
thing I heard you time efficiency.
yeah, so there's a time efficiency as well as just saving the planet.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's so much more to it, no? And it's that, just again, for me, it also gave me this mindful moment, no? And this is something, again, like I like to repeat when I'm talking about this topic, is just, even when designing a website, I guess the main question is like, do your users really need this? No, because there's so many trends that we follow. Again, we can make a parallel with anything in the world, no, with the closets or with the, well, in the end of the day, again, contributing to the problem of the internet, the gadgets. So one of the biggest issue is that, so for example, this is the thing I heard recently. My friend told me that her dad had to buy a new phone, and it was not an old phone, so it was like a 2-year-old phone, because he could not use his parking app anymore. And this is the issue. It's basically the fact that an 80% of carbon emission of a device comes from the production phase, and then another around, I don't know, 10 from disposal. No, so basically, when you think about one iPhone or any gadget in its core, most of its carbon footprint is production and, of course, disposal, getting rid of it. So using devices for as long as possible is something that, of course, contributes to sustainability itself. And designing software in a way that enables a person to pay for parking unless they buy a new phone is an issue that we have now, like, these days. So this is something that we're trying to kind of push this topic for, because it's, again, like, it's not only some of these things, it's not only the images, it's not only these basic things, it's so much more, because the problem is complex, of course. No, we all know that the problem, because if it's not, it will be solved long time ago. So there is so many small things inside. But yeah, each and every single one of us can do this small part in the end of the day of deleting emails as well. When you see your email inbox, no, the more you get towards that, full, 50%, 60%, 70%, and most of these things is junk. It's newsletters, unsubscribing from newsletters. I think that's like so important as well. And my trick, like tip and trick for that this is actually Black Friday. So on Black Friday, every single merchant you ever lay your eye upon slides into your inbox. So this is the moment I do my inbox cleaning, my newsletter cleaning. And of course, there's always the one that's kind of give you, of course, that give you value, that bring you something, that teach you something, that, of course, bring you some news, of course, and stuff like this. But there are so many that at some point in time, you subscribed, or they kind of got you into subscribing, and they're just there. So to be honest, I don't have numbers at this point in time, but the amount of emails as well that like, let's say an average person receives a day, it's also like an amazing, it's ridiculous amount of carbon emissions as well, because no, every email also has to pass through internet, it also has to be opened, it also consumes energy. So all of these things as well, when you think about your inbox, it has to be stored somewhere, same as the files. Now everything that's in the cloud, it's actually in the data center. So that's the thing, like, it's not somewhere out there, it's somewhere, hopefully somewhere where the energy is clean, but usually not. So it's somewhere on a server that's of course consuming energy to power, because they have to be in this kind of, I think, even like a vampire mode. It's called a vampire mode, where you're just like sucking energy, but it has to be ready, because they never know when you're going to ask for your image. So they always have to be ready to deliver you this image. And there is a huge chance that you're actually never going to look for it again, ever. So this is something that, again, I also like to encourage people when we think about not just the part of developers, but the part of everyday users, is just kind of clean this whole thing up. Also, I don't know, applications, all of these things that you can clean up, just deleted, more Marie Kondo's situation, no, and keep what's valuable, keep what you really want. No, in my case as well, like, after a trip, for example, we take a lot of trip videos and photos, and after a trip, I just like to go through it. And of course, you also get this a bit of a memorabilia, you get this kind of flashbacks and all that, but you also kind of go through and see if you have any ones, with the eyes closed and stuff like this, that you just kind of are never ever going to use. So keep the ones that are, of course, if you have multiple of those, or if something is just not that much, just of course keep the ones you want, but also kind of get rid of the ones that are maybe duplicates, or just kind of extra in any way. It's very personal. No, it's something that, like, now that I mentioned cats, I mentioned children, I mentioned fireworks, but it's something that, like, let's say in the end of the day, it works for me. Something where you are the one who have to decide where your priorities are, what you want to save and what you don't want to save. And the thing is that in the end of the day, it has a cost. No, it's just, unfortunately, it's an invisible one that it kind of feels invisible. So, and as you mentioned, the thing is that these plans are, I still remember, like, my mom always asked me to clean her phone. She would just like start panicking when her iPhone would be like the memory for photos would be overloaded. It was like, oh, what do I do now? What do I do now? And I was like, I kind of just logged into her account and I just buy the bigger plan, because it was €1 more. So, it was just like, it was an easy way out. And it is, because these personal spaces are actually quite cheap, and they continue to be cheaper and cheaper. So you can get, like, now we're talking gigabytes, terabytes of space for, like, some, let's say, these days, very small prices. But the thing is also, when you put this into enterprise, it can make a difference. Because when you think about, let's say, one of, for example, big e-commerce sites, how many photos of products they need to have. So, for example, keeping your photos of the products that you don't like have anymore, don't offer anymore, and stuff like this, or in the end of the day, optimizing photos to be, better compressed, and all these things, is something that not only can help the environment, can not only make, your user experience better, but can make your bill smaller. So this is also a lot of times when I talk about a topic in a business environment, is like the moment you start, talking money, is the moment people start listening to you, which is okay. We all have our priorities, but again, it's something. When you're talking personal, it's something that you have to see for yourself. And it's something, to be honest, for me personally, I also never understood people recording full concerts that you're on. So again, like, it was just something, that I did it as well at some point, not the full concert, but I would record a song, and I was like, I never ever looked at this. Same with the fireworks. I was like, why wasn't I just enjoying the moment? Why wasn't I, like, there listening to this, like the performer I paid so much to see these days? And it was just like, okay, no, I will stop doing this, because I just end up deleting these because of course you can get so much better video from the internet in the end of the day that someone else took, or well, the professional, whoever they paid to do it. And you're there, you're in the moment, you should be enjoying that firework, that concert, and all that, and not recording it and storing it somewhere you're probably never going to look at. But then again, this is me. This is something I learned about myself throughout the years, because I guarantee there is someone out there that does look at this. So if you're the person who is listening to this and you're looking at this video, don't delete it. If it brings you joy, don't delete it.
So these are really important things. So we're talking about emptying out your storage, but more specifically where we use our storage, where we max out our storage, and then we all kind of lean into cloud storage. And looking at those photos, looking at those videos take up a huge amount of space. I know this because I'm now editing and recording videos. Videos are massive data hogs. And then looking at your email and ways that we just collect emails and just don't delete them, even though they're well past their sell-by date. Even if we don't need that newsletter from 3 years ago, which I guarantee I have. So I really honestly, when I saw that you were into web sustainability, I didn't really understand what that was. And I'm very joyful to learn about it, how much those micro efforts add up and how we collectively can do more to pull things out of this perceived invisible space that we all are taking up and treating it like the basement or the attic.
Yeah, it was. As I told you, like in the story. So for me, it was a mind blow when I just had this realization. No, it was also, I was like, oh wait, like, you just never think about it. And this is why also, like, I've been, for the last year, I've been trying to, of course, do as much as I can when it comes to like speaking on the conferences about this topic, just to kind of raise awareness, because every single time I get a similar reaction to yours, which is like, oh my God, as well. It's like, I just had no idea that, it's even there, that this is even a thing. And it's actually, at the end of the day, it's very logical. And like, when you think about it, it's so, it brings many values. So when I was doing a workshop on the topic with the client, and I have this slide with all the benefit it brings. And every single time I challenge everyone, I was like, please let me know. And I was like, right now, or you can like email me, or, whatever, in 3 weeks, if you think of something, why wouldn't you do it? I kind of provide them with all the optimizations, all the stuff that you could do. And I was like, okay, so these are the benefits. And can you tell me a drawback of this? Like, why wouldn't you like to have this? And so far, I didn't get anything. So we're still only on the benefits, because I don't know. In the end of the day, when you think about it, it kind of all boils down to user, which is us. No, we are the users of many of these websites. We are the ones who are, as much as we are creators, we are also the consumers. So for me, providing this best user experience is somewhere where it kind of started with. And of course, me being a huge rage clicker as well, this is kind of why I also put so much, passion into web performance. Is like, I do want this to be fast, for you to get, like, I hate when I cannot read something. I just want to like, I'm in a metro, I want to read an article. And of course, because of so many things are on the website, I just cannot do the basic thing I'm supposed to be doing, I want to do on this website. So it kind of started with that. And it it's, well, not merged, but I'm missing a proper word, but it just kind of went into like, the flow went into this whole sustainability, and they kind of overlap. The performance and sustainability overlap a lot. So there are some of the topics. So for example, one of the big topic when it comes to sustainable web design is actually hosting on a green host. So these are the type of data centers that are hosted with clean energy. So you can actually decide which host you're, of course, going to host your website. So if you choose, let's say, a green host, your carbon footprint is definitely going to be lower than if you choose a non-green host. So this is something that probably won't improve your performance, but it will benefit the sustainable part of the web. And then, of course, there is some other things that will benefit performance, won't benefit sustainability, but in a nutshell, they're quite overlap. So optimizing for one, basically making site more focused, more lean, more kind of minimalistic, is something that kind of benefits for all of these topics.
And so there's something to be said for the ability to sort of clean house, clean mind.
Hmm.
And I think that you can say that to sort of clean website and clean web, clean storage, clean email also creates to a cleaner mind. You don't have so much clutter coming in.
Very much, very much. No, this is in the end, what we definitely advocate for is this. It's a focus. No, because first thing I always say as a strategy for making web more sustainable is defining the purpose of the website, because a lot of times we get lost in everything that we can do, that we just lose focus. And this is again, I guess, like, we all suffer from this, and it's something that it's very much in every aspect of our life these days. No, it's so much, of course, so many things competing for our attention. Is It's so easy to lose focus. And let's say, if you're designing, for example, again, an e-commerce, what you want it to happen, you want a user to buy something. No, so like, you want them to convert, you want them to find something fast, to put them in the cart, and to check out, to pay for it. And this is the journey you want to be as smooth and like as fast as possible. Because I can, again, I'm a user of many e-commerces, and I'm going to give up. I'm just going to go to someone else if I cannot do this. If I don't know, my PayPal doesn't go through, or whatever of these things, some of these things, or if something takes a long time, or if I cannot search well for something, I'm just going to go to someone else. And I think this is, again, in this age where most of us, I was raised with a computer. And I guess, like, most of my friends and colleagues as well, like, generation wise, we were raised with computers, of course, slower computers. But at this point in time, we're used to having everything instantly. So this is kind of, not designing in a way. And of course, again, a lot of times what I see as well is, when it comes to shift of the focus, is trying to copy as well. Oh, the competitor has it, let's put it in. Or I don't know, it's the newest thing, it's the newest technology. But I was like, you don't need it. Like, it's not something that you will benefit from. You can actually only add clutter to your website, but by using something like this. So I think there is a lot of times where, we have to sit down. Let's say, if in the end of the day we are the best business owner, we need to sit down and decide, what do we want. Like, what do you want? What is the focus? Who is your target group, of course? And in the end of the day, what's the purpose of the website? What we want them to do, and how to achieve it? Because of course, if we start bombarding them with everything from all the places, making it hard to load, waiting forever, people will leave. No, and this is, again, this is not what you would like to happen. Okay, so I can just I can go through this, like, to very basic. So when we talk about web development, we, of course, we have different roles, no, which I touched upon a bit when I was like, talking about the verticality of the topic. No, so let's say we want to make a website. No, the first person, of course, has to be some kind of product owner. No, so there's someone who has to decide what this website is about, what goes on it, and all that. So then we will probably have some kind of, let's say, business analyst that will take these ideas from the product owner and transfer them into some, let's say, technical specifications. So how much, where, what are the kind of, let's say, maybe edge cases and things like this. And then after that, we go a bit deeper into the technology stack. No, so we're probably going to have some kind of architect. We're going to have a front end developer, back end developer, and of course the design part. No, so design part, we usually divide into UI and UX. And I think this is something that is also very important to make a differentiation between these two, because a lot of times it's put in the same bucket, and it's not the same. So UI is user interface, and it's how it looks. So it's all that, the fonts, the colors, the just kind of this look and feel. A lot of times, you can hear it being referred as branding, as just, again, so for sometimes, they will say, like, make it sexy and things like this. So these were some of requirements you get, of course. But I would say this is the type of the UI. And then you have the user experience, which is psychology. This is the part that I was also saying about these user journeys. So who is our user? How do they think? Where do you place a button? When you click a button, what happens? All of these interactions are actually user experience. This is this kind of how does user navigate on this very pretty design page. And then, of course, we have a backend and a front end developer. So, backend are usually responsible for everything that happens on a kind of server. So, databases, processing, all this, let's say, kind of heavy work, I would say. And then, once this comes to the front end, it gets, of course, front end developer is the one that, let's say, displays it nicely in a way. So, the front end is the one that implements UX and UI. So, it makes it pretty, and then of course is in charge as well of all of these interactions, how to implement those. So recently, of course, there is front end became a very, very broad as well. A lot of people probably heard about the frameworks, React, Angular, stuff like this. So the thing is, it kind of grew that front end and everything. Actually, front end is everything that happens in the browser. I think actually that's the easier way to explain it. So it was kind of getting heavier and heavier, and now we're kind of going back because of this whole limitations, of course, with the phones, with everything. We're going a bit back to kind of making everything that's happening in the browser smaller and kind of trying to do all of these things back on the server. So it's interesting because it's just back and forth in this trend of development as well now as everything else. But hopefully this kind of gives a bit of an overview. And again, like so, for example, my role, which is web performance, mostly goes on the level of front end. So this is kind of, I came again from the front end. This is where I kind of did a lot of my work. But then again, as a web performance consultant, I tend to kind of integrate and make a connection with every single of these roles and try to help them make, let's say, better decisions when it comes to performance of the website from what they can do. Because let's say you want to so thorn in my tie for most of my developer life, the carousels. When you open a website, there's the slider with 4 slides. So there is a lot of scripting, JavaScript happening. So there is a lot of code there. There's usually 3 to 4 slides, which are always very, very big images. Most of the users never even come to the 4th one, but you're still loading like a megabyte of image anyway. And this is something that, from a developer perspective, developer can optimize this to make images lazy load and things like this. So which means load just when they enter, so they're not loaded until you actually click and enter. But the person who actually has a control over it is the product owner, is the person who say, you know what, I want a carousel over here. And they're the one who have to be aware of the cost. So how much in bytes this costs and what these bytes mean. If these bytes mean lower performance, which can mean lower conversions in the end of the day, Google penalizes you for this. It means more carbon emissions and all that. And this is something that a lot of times it's not taken consideration. And we're trying to push this topic forward to make it something default, something that people just think about it when they develop. There's so many small, like in the end of the day, there are so many small things like this. And I can tell you, so for when I was building my own personal website, well, I think it's maybe a bit over optimized, but this is some of the decisions, when I'm most of my career, I've been working on very large projects, and it takes so much time to push anything through. You need like 4, 5, 6 approvals for so many different people to do something. So for example, one of the things, we're talking branding, and a lot of times this means colors, this means fonts, and fonts are the ones as well that can get very heavy, because these web fonts, you take, the bold version and italic version and this version and that version. And then of course, if you don't optimize fonts and you, for example, include all the letters from different alphabet that you may not need, for example. So there is so many optimizations that can be done on every single aspect of the website. And this is again why our role comes in, because this is not something that you think about like every single person by default. No, like actually the topic is becoming so large that it's very hard to keep a track on it unless you actually work on it full time. There is so many like small things we've seen working on so many different projects that of course we can apply to now like the newer projects. But yeah, like for let's say days you work on a topic and then you realize what's happening, and it's such a weird behavior that you never even thought it could be there. So like again, it's a very, to me personally, it's something very interesting. It like I don't write code at the moment, but it's a lot of engineering, a lot of problem solving, a lot of analysis. So it's kind of, it's also like very, very interesting. When it comes to AI, I personally think that again, it has to be used mindfully, and it can do amazing things. No, so I actually recently got my mole on my back detected as potential melanoma because of AI. No, and of course, so stuff like this, it was all good, but still, it's in the end of the day, this is something that it's amazing. No, like like going through this whole, for example, diagnosis and stuff like this, doing something again like on this huge data set is great. It can save lives in the end of the day. But now, generating images of cats, it's just, again, it's how you use it with all of these things. It's how you use it, for what you use it. And this is something that it's a huge, I guess, a topic and discussions around it. So when it comes to sustainability as well as a topic, it can definitely make an impact, because AIs are already trained to actually detect. This is also one of the things when it comes to green software, is that what you can do. So as I said, what's happening is that we use electricity, which is generated by burning fossil fuels. Not everywhere and not all the time. No. So depending, if let's say if we have a very sunny day, the amount, or of course it's during the day and not during the night, amount of solar energy in the grid is going to be higher than the amount of fossil fuels. Same with the windy days, same depending on the country as well. No, so I think Iceland is actually one of the countries with the cleanest energy. So like if you're doing something in Iceland, in theory, you can do whatever you want, because it's such a clean energy that you're actually not emitting that much as if you were doing this somewhere else. So I guess this is one of the things as well when it comes to AI. So AI, what you can do as well is you can do this time and spatial shifting. So you can move some of your processes to be done at a different time or on a different location, depending on this, how clean the energy is at the time or at the space. And there's AI that can predict those things, for example. So again, there is many things that can be used for good, but then again, just it's in the end of the day how you use it, for what you use it, how you use it. And of course, a lot of these come from training, and then of course the ethical part of training these models on data. Yeah, I hope I of course you learned a bit about green web, about sustainable web. So this is topic I'm very much interested in. I think it's very important as well. So we're all web users, consumers on everyday basis. So I guess my biggest goal here is to educate, is just to kind of go around to talk about this topic, to kind of see, to again just to educate, because most of these decisions when they're made is because you don't know. A lot of time, like how many times in my life I've made a decision because that was maybe not the best decision, just because I did not have all the knowledge. No one from us can have the knowledge. So this is something that I really kind of like doing. It's just going around, especially, for example, as well, where I kind of found my space as well. So I definitely enjoy technical part of this whole thing, but since the whole verticality, there is so many parts as well, so many roles to cover other than developers. So talking through, to, for example, communities such as Women Techmakers, it's what gives me as well access to, product owners and UX and UI designers, and not just, the techies. So this is also very nice platform to kind of again spread awareness about this topic. So yeah, if you're listening to this again, Google the topic. There is so much resources about it. Sustainablewebdesign.org is definitely a good place to start when it comes to topic, and then so many more. And yeah, I guess from all the topics we touched upon, I would say get to your communities, choose your communities wisely. They're very important. Then I would say, what else would we touched upon today? Be flexible, pivot. I guess make your own as well, make your own path. I think this is also something that's very important here. Is we can all sit and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not happy. Like, you're the one who holds the change in your hands. No, again, use your community, use your network, or just kind of try to figure out how you can, proactively get some other things. No, this is the topic we actually pushed inside of our company, like the company I work with. So, once I figure out this topic, we kind of pushed with few colleagues, we pushed this topic, and now we get to work on it every day. So this is not the role that was existing. So, like, you're the one who can also open the role for yourself. And yeah, educate about green web. Delete those firework pictures.